It is 2:17 a.m. in the morning. The blue light of a smartphone screen illuminates a face in the dark, a quiet, singular ghost in a room full of shadows. You're scrolling. A friend is closing on their first home, a colleague is celebrating a promotion, an acquaintance is standing before a sunset that looks like a masterpiece. In this moment, your own life, with its half-finished projects and familiar ceiling, suddenly feels insufficient. A quiet, heavy fog of inadequacy rolls in, not because your reality has changed, but because your perspective has shifted. You are no longer measuring your life by your own standards, you are measuring it against a curated, polished projection of someone else's. Are you really falling behind, or is your brain simply comparing your messy, behind-the-scenes reality to someone else's highlight reel? Every single day, your brain silently asks one dangerous, persistent question: am I doing better or worse than everyone else? But if this mechanism is so deeply woven into our biology, why would your own brain, an organ designed to ensure your survival, repeatedly choose a path that steals your peace of mind? To understand this, we must look at the origins of the human mind, long before the internet or the glowing glass rectangles we carry. In the 1950s, psychologist Leon Festinger introduced social comparison theory, positing that we possess an innate drive to evaluate our abilities by looking at others. This was not a flaw, it was a survival strategy. In the ancestral environment, knowing where you stood within the hierarchy of your tribe was a matter of life and death. If you were slower than the hunters, you risked hunger. If you were lower in social standing, you risked exclusion. Our brains evolved to constantly scan for status, calibrating our worth to ensure we remained valuable members of the group. It was an essential tool for navigation. However, that ancient software was designed for a world of maybe 150 people, a local group where everyone's struggles and triumphs were laid bare. What happens when a survival instinct, designed for a small, visible tribe, suddenly finds itself exposed to the curated, hyper-competitive lives of billions? The answer lies in the digital architecture we inhabit. Social media platforms are not designed to reflect reality, they are engineered to optimize for engagement, which almost always means showcasing the absolute best of humanity. We are presented with a constant stream of filtered excellence. Our brains, however, struggle to differentiate between a digital signal and physical reality. When you see a friend's success, your brain processes it as socially relevant information, and emotional systems, including the amygdala, can become more active depending on how personally significant that comparison feels. Because we see these moments in isolation, stripped of the failures and mundane struggles that preceded them, we assume that this representational peak is the person's baseline. We ignore the reality that everyone has a shadow self, a collection of doubts and insecurities they never post. If social media only shows the highlight reel, why does the brain stubbornly insist on treating those frames as if they were someone's entire life story? This is where the distinction between upward and downward comparison becomes critical. When we engage in upward comparison, looking at those we perceive as better off, we trigger a cascade of negativity bias, focusing on what we lack rather than what we have. It can feel like a drive for growth, but when fueled by social media, it rarely leads to inspiration. Instead, it leads to a chronic sense of being less than. Confirmation bias quietly strengthens this feeling. Once you begin believing that everyone else is doing better than you, your brain starts searching for evidence that supports that belief while ignoring all the moments that contradict it. Every promotion, vacation, or celebration becomes another piece of proof that you are falling behind, even when the bigger picture tells a very different story. Conversely, downward comparison can offer a temporary boost to self-esteem, but it often does so at the cost of genuine connection and empathy. We begin to curate our own lives as a defensive measure, performing for an audience rather than living for ourselves. It is a subtle, corrosive process. We begin to define our worth not by our own values, but by our proximity to the success of others. But losing confidence is only the beginning. What comparison quietly steals next is even more vital. The hidden cost of this cycle is a slow erosion of the self. Chronic comparison acts as a persistent stressor, keeping the body in a prolonged state of psychological stress, which can increase anxiety, emotional exhaustion, and reduce overall well-being over time. Imagine waking up every morning already feeling as though you are losing a race you never actually agreed to enter. This isn't just about feeling sad, it is about the hijacking of your cognitive resources. When your brain is occupied with keeping score, it has less energy for creativity, deep work, or genuine presence. You become a spectator in your own life, constantly looking over your shoulder at someone else's lane. The tragedy is that comparison doesn't only steal your happiness, it also steals your attention, and attention is one of the most valuable resources your brain possesses. Envy isn't proof that you're failing. It's often a signal that your attention has shifted away from your own values and toward someone else's scoreboard. If comparison is so deeply wired into our neural pathways, does that mean we are condemned to this cycle, or can science provide a path to reclaim our focus? Breaking the cycle begins with the understanding that you cannot turn off your brain's ability to compare, but you can change the target of the measurement. Research in self-compassion, particularly the work of Dr. Kristen Neff, suggests that treating yourself with the same kindness you would offer a friend can dampen the sting of comparison. Instead of focusing on outcomes, which are often subject to luck and timing, we can shift our focus to intrinsic goals, measuring our progress against our own past self. This is a scientific pivot. By replacing the everyone else metric with a me yesterday metric, you engage the brain's reward centers in a healthier way, releasing dopamine from the satisfaction of personal mastery rather than the validation of others. Keeping a simple progress journal can also retrain your attention. Instead of measuring your life against strangers online, you begin collecting evidence of your own growth, giving your brain a healthier reference point for success. Practicing gratitude serves as an essential buffer, training the prefrontal cortex to recognize and value your own resources. It is not about ignoring the world, it is about choosing which parts of the world deserve your attention. Comparison is not the enemy. It is a relic of our past, a primitive tool that has lost its utility in the modern age. It only becomes dangerous when the success of a stranger makes you forget the value of your own journey. The healthiest competition is not with the people you see on a screen, it is with the person you were yesterday. You are the only person on your specific timeline, with your specific set of experiences, challenges, and strengths. Because the moment you stop measuring your life against everyone else's timeline is the moment you stop surviving someone else's story, and finally begin writing your own. If this documentary gave you a new perspective on your own mind, subscribe to Psychology Decoded for more deep dives into psychology, neuroscience, and human behavior. Every week, we uncover the hidden patterns that shape the way we think, feel, and act. Until next time, stay curious and keep decoding the mind.